everyone. Welcome back to the Fieldr Academy podcast. This is episode 10, and today's episode is going to be a little bit different. We have Connor and I, the co-founders of Fieldr, on this week's episode, and it's going to be more of a casual conversation about the ever-evolving art of balance. So, Connor, why don't you introduce yourself?
Awesome. No, thank you, Natalie. And everyone, as Natalie mentioned, this is going to be a very slightly different. We always keep it casual, but this is going to be even more casual. Take a step back, just sharing a conversation about, the title of the episode, Ever Evolving Art of Balance. Just building on, as co-founders, our experience having to balance both outside work, different committees, of course, the company in itself, and then just our personal lives. So we'll dive into all of that. But with that being said, in that context, I always love to introduce myself, not just, of course, as the CEO, the co-founder of Fieldr, but a lot of you may already know I've been working on my first book, and so we're going to get into a lot of that later in this episode. But for the first time in my life, I'm very proud to consider myself an author. So very excited to have that publishing soon. Again, we'll dive into more of the details here in a little bit in this episode. But other than, of course, other than Fieldr, other than writing the book, I'm a huge advocate for volunteering. So I represent a handful of different nonprofits and organizations here in Southwest Florida, including, not limited to, the Future Makers Coalition, a few different high schools here in Lee County, sitting on their career advisory boards, Junior Achievement, as well as, LARC, can't forget LARC, one of my favorite nonprofits, aiding the developmentally disabled adults here in Southwest Florida. So again, huge advocate for volunteer. I absolutely love my roles and my positions on those different leadership and advisory board committees. So other than Field and other than writing my book, that's what I love to fill my time with. Natalie, you want to go ahead and build on some more of your background to further introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, so I am the COO of Fieldr, and in college I studied finance, and right now I work full-time at a bank in Naples, and I'm like a credit analyst. And then as soon as I'm done with work, I work on a lot of Fieldr stuff on during the week and on the weekends. And besides, it keeps my schedule pretty busy. So that's basically what I have going on.
Definitely. And so, with that being said, Natalie, you mentioned a couple of points as far as also having to balance a full-time job. That brings us all the way back to honestly the launch of Fieldr, because Natalie and I were both still, I guess you wouldn't call us recent graduates anymore. It's been a year, which is honestly crazy to say. Yeah. How crazy is that? It's already been a whole year and a month.
I feel like
Right. So on that note, shout out to all the 2020 graduates. We shouted you all out in a couple other episodes, but we'll keep on shouting you out. Very proud of everyone who pushed through a very weird, awkward kind of time going through school. So you pioneered a whole virtual graduation, something that's never been done before, at least on a mass scale. So congratulations to all the graduates. But anyway, so not recent graduate anymore. Again, graduated from FGCU, both Natalie and I, over a year ago. Natalie, from your major was finance, right? So you technically graduated from the finance program, right?
Yeah,
and you minored in entrepreneurship, right? Which is where we shared, some classes. Of course, and honestly, that's a good dovetail into how Fieldr even started. I just mentioned we shared a class. What was the class, Natalie? The New Venture Lab, right?
Yeah.
New Venture Lab. It was with certainly one of my favorite professors, no longer at FGC. He's over at NC State now, Chris Little. We actually had, I think, episode 7, we had Chris on up at NC State now. But yeah, no, Natalie and I shared that class back in our spring semester of our senior year, which, lo and behold, point I'm getting at is where we incubated the very, very early concept of Fieldr. Like, I'm talking from absolute day zero, day negative, when it was just a pure idea on a piece of paper, presented it to a group that we had formed in that class. And through that whole semester, it was 5 of us, 5 total students working on the very early stage idea of Fieldr. And huge shout out to those students as well. There was a lot of help, but throughout the semester, Natalie and I really stood out as the two who took it certainly serious and saw the true potential in it. But yeah, Natalie, go ahead and you can build on this story.
Yeah. So, I mean, Fieldr was very different. It wasn't completely different, but it was very different from what it is today. And we all kind of, when we were putting together Fieldr, we saw it as something that had really great potential, but not all of us were, in it for the long run. We didn't, and by the end of the semester, Connor and I realized that this could be something really big. And just hearing from like our professors and like people in the community, because we also pitched it as like in a fair thing, and just people in the community saying like this is really awesome, like we'd love to see more. So it pushed us to pursue it, and it's been over a year now, and it's changed, and our focus has really geared towards more high schools rather than just colleges, but I think our core value is still there. So.
Yeah, no, as far as, the culture, the core value behind the company, the purpose behind the company, that's always been there, right? And to clarify what that purpose is, it's to help, young students, help young emerging talent professionals, not just achieve their vision, but, achieve the building blocks that will then, launch them into their career path, right? Natalie mentioned we focus on high school students. So our platform, as everyone knows, is really gearing and going to continue to gear towards, experiential learning opportunities, right? Mentorships, apprenticeships, co-ops. Did I say internships? I'll say internships again if I even did. Project-based learning, all those different building blocks that allow the student to gain that proper experience, a quality and meaningful experience, even if that means them identifying an industry they're interested in is not where they actually want to go. That will save that student so much time, effort, money, and even navigating through college, to the rest of college, knowing early on in their quote unquote career, their time as a student, being able to identify that's actually not where they want to go, being able to submerge themselves into that industry and identify, okay, that's actually not what I thought it would be. Let me redirect my approach. Let me redirect my classes, my schedule, whatever it be. Because around this time, we're still young as well, Natalie. All of our listeners are still young. And so it's a priority for students to make sure they're balancing everything, not to quote this episode, but they need to be flexible, and they need to, recognize the different experiential opportunities that are out there as a student, and those are going to be the ones that are the building blocks. But anyway, I'm getting off topic.
Talk from experience too. We in college, like there's with everything going on, all our classes, you still need some sort of experience, and I think we both struggled finding that. And I really didn't have an internship until my senior year. So, and I struggled to just find that one. Because it was so competitive with everyone else trying to find one. So
yeah, no, and honestly, Natalie, you just brought up a really good point. This ties in a few good things. Graduating with you were mentioning before when you were talking about we had faculty, administrative, telling us, great idea, are you going to pursue it? They were really urging us, really insisting us when you and I were both in a position with frankly secure full-time jobs, lined up, ready to go, ready to graduate and commit ourselves to them. So, our heads weren't exactly all there and, to commit to Fieldr at that time. And it was a lot of that push that we thankfully received from the community and from the school, to certainly pursue it. And then we, our senses came to us and we finally pursued it. But no, so again, what I'm getting at is the jobs, having the security of the jobs, as we're graduating college, but still needing to identify we had a huge opportunity in our hands, and we needed to balance both committing that ourselves as now a recent grad to that full-time job, which, as we all know, is a much bigger transition than working while you're in school. You're done with school, you're onto that full-time job now, right? You're like, a lot of different responsibility and commitment entails when you do graduate, when you're pursuing that new career path. But having to balance now our jobs, our commitments, with now a startup that would require a lot of attention. That was definitely, honestly, one of the biggest, at least, experiences I had in trying to balance everything that's going on and having to, make the proper decision to go forward. You mentioned, you mentioned, I think you said you kind of had like a lack at internships, right? Or just a lack of awareness of what was out there throughout your time in school. I certainly had that going through my freshman, sophomore, sort of my, junior year. Side note for all of our listeners who don't know, actually, I changed my majors 5 times when I was in school. Entrepreneurship was the 5th major, and I got fired from like two different positions throughout my time as an undergraduate. A couple of, one of them was me just being just a stupid young college kid. But another internship I got fired from was absolute bull crap. And I used it as a motivator, honestly, because I knew it was bull crap and they had no excuse. Anyway, so earlier in my time in college, yeah, I struggled to identify the right and meaningful opportunities. But here's then another flip side to that is my experience with a company called Where the Fun. When I was a junior going to my senior year, roughly 2 years, I was developing a small business, kind of phasing between a startup to a small business here locally in Fort Myers, again, called Where the Fun. Huge shout out to Sam Lewis, their founder and CEO. Major role and brother to me, and just, he's presented huge opportunities to me. But one of those opportunities he presented was in my junior year, an internship to work at his again, I'll refer to it as a startup at that specific time. And it's an apparel company, a decorator, screen printing and embroidery. But what I loved about the company's model is that they give back 5% on every purchase to a nonprofit, right? And so I really liked the model, and he proposed to me an internship that would work kind of the whole summer for absolutely free. And I did. And so I worked the entire summer for free, my junior year for Sam. I learned so much about starting a business, the do's, the don'ts, ups, downs, facing bankruptcy, all the way to driving it to profitability. It was such raw business experience. And it was honestly the experience I wanted every student to be able to have an opportunity to get to. So again, that's what I'm getting at, is I experienced kind of both sides to it, the lack of the awareness and the lack of the meaningful opportunities in my early stages as a student, but then being offered and blessed with such a huge opportunity, both in the context of an entrepreneur, but also just as a role as honestly, I handled a lot of the sales and partnership portfolio. So it was honestly a lot of that opportunity that molded me into such a well-rounded, not just student at that point, but professional, grew my network, right? And so the point I'm getting at is I'd been blessed with that opportunity, and I wanted to make sure that every student had that same ability, and to find, have the ability to become aware and engage in all those different opportunities, strongly knowing that it would mold and develop them into something much greater than they were as a student. So that's my long story of me as a junior in college, and I guess really an origin to having a balance, both Fieldr and these different full-time job commitments. So
yeah, and that sounds like it was a really awesome opportunity to be able to work in a type of business like that, growing, and I can definitely see how much it's like contributed to building Fieldr too.
Oh, insane, absolutely insane. I mean, of course, one of the biggest things that has come out of it is the network, the professional network that I still have, that I've been blessed with, that I continue to grow and develop, and that has become a part of Fieldr's network is such a reason. And for that, that's why I have such gratitude and immense love for the community, is they've shown nothing but love and gratitude for us as people, as entrepreneurs, as students, as young professionals. So, it's my duty, it's our duty, every day to return that, that gratitude and those favors, right back to our network, right back to our community. But Natalie, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to you. Can you pinpoint at least maybe one of the a really standout experience you had of having to balance anything, multiple things, a job, whether it was Fieldr? Go ahead and I want to hear something you got.
Yeah, for sure. So this past year, I've had to work on my ability to balance everything going on, like, immensely. So I remember at one point, like starting Fieldr, I felt like, well, I wouldn't say when we first started Fieldr, I would say like months in, I felt burnout, because I was going from like a full-time job, sometimes working during working on Fieldr stuff during my lunch, then afterwards going, after getting off work, going to some sort of community event or meetings, and then going home and then working on more stuff until I go to sleep. And I think that was like a really challenging time for me, because I'd never been working like 24, like not 24 hours, but like 12 hours a day, basically. And I thought it was really tough on me, and I felt exhausted at the end of the day, like physically exhausted. And it was something I had to learn to balance in my life. And as much as my job and Fieldr is super important, like my mental health and my sanity is important too.
Number one. Oh my God. Mental health, will always be absolute number one. I don't mean to I'll give right back to you. I don't mean to cut you off, but Natalie is so absolute right in this sense. And that goes for everyone in any scenario you're in, whether you're a student, you're a young professional. I don't care, especially if you're running a company, especially if you're the one running a company, self-care. You need to put yourself first, because if you can't put yourself first, you're not going to be able to prioritize anybody else. You're going to, like Natalie mentioned, at one point you will burn out, right? And so it's all about that ability, to balance everything. And on top of that ability to balance is being able to make sure that you have a stable ground, a stable mental state, right? So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I was just realizing, like, I was missing all the things that I loved personally doing, such as working out and seeing my boyfriend, spending time with family, stuff like that. So I really had to figure out a way to prioritize these things and make sure I'm getting everything I need to get done. So I was able to figure out a way to get everything done in the time that I need, but also make sure I give some time for me and for people I want to spend time with. So yeah, I maybe not am able to work out every single day or see the people that I love every single day, but I'm able to have a well balance in my week where I'm able to do those things and still get everything I need to get done. So I think that is so important.
Absolutely. You just mentioned, I had a question I wanted to ask you after this too, and we'll dovetail right into it. And honestly, I'll bring it up right now, and I guess it's the fundamental attributes of living that well-balanced life. And you just mentioned, excuse me, one of the major players in the ability to balance, and that's prioritization. That's the ability to prioritize everything that you have on, quote unquote, on your plate. And that's exactly what you did, prioritizing your time, huge, one of the biggest reasons I'm personally able to, and again, I'm sure you're able to, is the time allocation, is being able to prioritize how much time is needed for this, how much time is needed for that, how much time am I able to allocate for that. And so being able to break all that down, and to your point, you can't see all the loved ones every single day. Sometimes can't work out every single day, right? But it's up to us, as individuals, as entrepreneurs especially, to firsthand, not just while we're in the midst of it, under the water trying to reach out, before we even jump into the water, do our best to identify the appropriate time allocation that each subject matter in our lives ought to get. That's, so prioritization is such a major player. What other fundamental attributes do you think are relative to living a well-balanced life?
I think having a positive attitude is super important. If you are going to point out the negatives all the time, like, you're not going to have the motivation to get anything you want to get done, and you're not going to, I guess motivation would be more important here. Motivation, just, you're not going to be motivated to get what you need to get done, and also have time to do what you want to do too. So.
And honestly, you just said something that's I talk a lot about in my book. Actually, it's in one of the chapters. I believe it's chapter number 1. No, chapter number 2 or chapter number 1. I can't quite remember. Oh my gosh. No, it's chapter number 1, emotional intelligence. And that's optimism versus pessimism, is the point I'm getting at. You just mentioned having the right mindset, right? Simplify it. Optimistic versus pessimistic. When you carry a negative mindset into any scenario, into any situation, you're going to create a negative scenario or situation. Whatever's going to happen is going to be a direct reflection of the mindset that you're carrying into it. Coming to it with an optimistic, positive attitude, the reflection that you see around you, whether it be the people you're surrounding yourself with or whatever it is you're doing, is going to directly reflect a optimistic, positive, forward-moving reflection, right? And so absolutely, mindset reflects, or your surroundings are an exact reflection of that mindset. So it's so important just to, first simplify that mindset and recognize that, okay, you have a choice. Carry a pessimistic and optimistic mindset into it. I absolutely believe that is a choice. You have a choice to determine what type of mindset you want to carry. It's just a matter of how much control you choose to have over those emotions. So it comes down to how much effort you want to put into the control over those emotions, right?
I agree. I've been on both sides. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Another huge, fundamental attribute to living a well-balanced life is accountability. I will always speak about and speak highly about accountability, and that goes in multiple directions, honestly. Accountability for when simply when something just doesn't go right. When something doesn't go right, and even if it's what you consider out of your control, 9.9 out of 10 times there's something you did do or you didn't do for that to still happen. It is your responsibility to take accountability. You ought to take accountability for whatever it is that happened. Now, I'm not saying that means you need to go beat yourself up over it. You need to go punish yourself because something happened that might have been slightly out of control. What you need to do is hold yourself accountable. Recognize what it is you did do or what it is you didn't do. And sometimes it could be a week ago. Sometimes you didn't do something a week ago, and that's why something is happening now. But it's completely up to you to hold yourself accountable and to identify, right, where the origin of that is, where you did do something or you didn't do something that ultimately led up to that scenario happening in your life, right? So accountability is a major part, and to continue building on that. That was a simple approach to it. Now let's look at that on kind of a different level. Holding yourself accountable for just everything it is that you're doing in life, just your different endeavors. Holding yourself accountable if you're not spending enough time with the family members. You need to hold yourself accountable and say, look, I told myself I need to spend this much time with my loved ones, or else I know I'm going to fall under. And if you're not doing that, then you're more than likely going to fall under. You need to hold yourself accountable and stop right there in your tracks and say, hold up, something needs to change, because I told myself, I know for a fact I need this much of, let's just call it, a time with family, time with, my boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it be. Hold yourself accountable and redirect that when you recognize you're falling off course. And then the opposite, you're working on your business. You're recognizing that you're not working on it as much as you should. Hold yourself accountable, recognize what needs to be changed, and recognize, okay, there needs to be more time allocated to it, or maybe something else needs to be, lessened how much time you're spending doing it. And then the third kind of approach I'll talk about accountability is in a more positive way. When you win, when something amazing happens, not just, shouting, full of just, a gloat, but identify, okay, why did this just happen? Why did this just succeed? And identify what you need to continue to do moving forward in order to make, those wins keep on happening, right? Hold yourself accountable that this happened, we succeeded. Why did we succeed? Okay, let's keep on doing that to move forward, right? So being able to identify that. So accountability is such a major role in being able to, know what it is you're balancing. If you're not holding yourself accountable, you're just balancing a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, and I think this is a good point to bring in with the pandemic going on. That is something that is out of everyone's control, and it was unexpected. So something you have to realize is that you have to expect the unexpected, and you can't blame the world for everything going on. So for Fieldr, we had to change. We had to react. We started the Fieldr podcast. We started
services
for the website. We focused more on the school district that we are contracted with, and we reacted. So we didn't blame everything going on. Yes, it was tough when this whole thing started, and we were like, what the hell are we gonna do? We didn't know, and then we kind of reacted and we figured it out. So
yeah, no, absolutely. That's good points. What are some so we talked about some fundamental attributes. Now we talked about, what did we talk about? Prioritization, time allocation, aka time management, accountability, and you mentioned it was, self-care mindset is a big one. But yeah, so what are now some stigmas? Are there any stigmas that you could break about living a well-balanced life? Because let me elaborate on that. I've met the minority of people think that, and let me clarify what I mean by that. The lesser amount of people out of the people I asked felt as though it's not possible to live a well-balanced life. The majority that I asked felt as though it is possible to live a well-balanced life, right? It's ever evolving, hence the title of this book, hence the title of this episode, hence the title of my book. But do you think there are any stigmas that ought to be broken about living a well-balanced life? What do you think?
So I don't think balance means that everything has to be 50-50. I think that sometimes you are going to spend maybe 80% of your time working on your business or your job, and then you're only going to have 20% of that time for the things that you love. And then sometimes it might be opposite, but that's really going to be dependent on your where you are right now. Like if you are going through a hard time, maybe you need to switch things up. So I think that's really important. Another thing I think people kind of, just because I'm really into nutrition, I think that some people think well balanced means eating out and eating junk food half the time and then eating a salad half the time. And I don't think that's true. If you want to live like a healthy life, you're going to have you're not going to forgo the things you love. So if you love chocolate like me, then you're going to have that once in a while because you love it. So I think that's really important. Um,
Yeah.
and balance obviously doesn't mean I'm eating chocolate half the time and then eating
Right.
salad half the time. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Honestly, like you kind of stole the ones I was gonna say. I'll build on them. Let me build on them. So I'll start with which one do I want to start with? I will start with the 50-50. Um, I'm not gonna say the whole curse word, but F the 50-50 work-life balance. I think it is complete bullshit. I don't believe in a 50-50 balance. I don't believe in this work-life balance, right? And people hear me out. I know that work-life balance can be in the same context that I'm about to dive into, but I just see it too often that work-life balance is tied into the 50-50 balance. And I'm on Natalie's page, and this is what I consider it, an integrated balance. Sure, some of the things you're going to be doing, one will be receiving 65% of the time during the day. One will only be weekly. Maybe some of the things you're doing are only needed to be done on a monthly level, some on a semi-annually level, whether it's a committee you're a part of or some forum you're a part of. But then on your day-to-day level, working out is done 6 days a week versus something that's only done 3 times a week. So what we're getting at is this quote unquote 50-50 balance, as if like things need to be perfectly leveled out 50-50, same amount of time spent done this, same amount of time spent done there, same amount of effort put there. It's bullshit, all bullshit. Live your life in a very much integrated balance, whereas you can identify, again, we talked about this before when prioritizing your subject matter in life. Identify everything it is that you're doing in life, and identify the appropriate amount of time and effort that each needs. And don't be surprised when you see each one needs something different. Each one needs a different amount of time. Each one doesn't require the same level of effort, amount of time, or dedication to it. And that is why, balancing your life is not this perfect 50-50 equalized balance. It's an integrated balance where, sure, things are very much different, but you have them, in balance. They're in sync. They're not just all over the place. You've identified them. You've locked them down. You've identified those different, the different needs of them. So it's not a 50-50 balance. It's an integrated balance. That's one of the first stigmas I always like to break. And so great point, Natalie. And then you brought up another one, the nutritional side of things. I'll kind of umbrella this. This is one of my chapters, chapter number 3 in my book, Life's Fundamentals. There's 3 fundamentals I like to consider in life. Number 1 is sleep. Number 2, nutrition. And number 3, love. Let me start with sleep. And I'll run through these fairly quickly. Sleep, I kind of laugh now more so than I don't get upset over it. I laugh, I chuckle at the posts on social media and shit like that. Only the successful sleep 5 hours a night. If you only sleep 8 hours a night, you're never going to be one of the successful people. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. Like, oh my God, it drives me crazy when I see people think like that because they're going to bed at 2-3 a.m. and getting up at 7 a.m. For a very short period of time, mind you. Call me up in 6 months and let me see if you're still actually keeping that up, or if you've lost about 10 pounds and have deteriorated your health and are going crazy because you're not giving yourself adequate sleep. Sleep is a fundamental to your life. First and foremost, I don't need to pull up any statistics here, but there's been research done, and the needed average amount of time for sleep is 7 to 9 hours for human beings. That is the adequate amount of time. So I don't want to get all sciencey here, but and I can bring in a ton of different, influential people who are also on the same page as I am. I'll bring in 2, Gary Vaynerchuk and Jeff Bezos. Gary Vaynerchuk has been, Gary V, I'll say it short, has been quoted to say, it's not about the amount of time you sleep, it's what you do when you're awake, right? It's what you do when you're awake, not the amount of time you sleep, even if it's 4 hours or if it's 9 hours. Jeff Bezos has been quoted or has stated, he at one point in his life, and I'm not sure if it's still current, didn't use an alarm clock. He would let his body naturally wake up and it was ready to. Sure, Jeff Bezos is certainly a rare person, right? But it's that concept that, look, it's sleep, and it is a purely fundamental attribute to our life into our simple health. So sleep is a priority. Sleep is always number one. And that's a stigma I like to break, is that, look, you need the adequate amount of sleep. Screw all the bullshit posts and all the little quote unquote motivational stuff that say you only need 4 to 5 hours if you want to be successful. Get
Yeah,
the adequate amount of sleep.
have been there, and I'm trying to get everything done and
Yep.
stayed up way too late. And then, you have to be up at a certain time for work, and I cannot function. Like, I literally cannot function.
Yeah.
I can't think right. It's so important to get enough sleep.
Absolutely.
If I get 8 hours, I'm great.
Absolutely. Yep. Same here. Me. I'm right with science. 7 to 9 hours, and I'm good to go. It was only, I think it was 19 or 20 years old. I was, a few years ago. 3-4 years ago now. When I was running my first entertainment company while developing Where the Fun, while taking a full course load, right? So it's like trying to balance all these stuffs. I mean, my workload was above 110 hours a week. You can do the math. I was not left with much more time than just to stare at a wall and maybe sleep. I was sleeping 4 hours a night, 4.5 hours a night. I was in bed 2-3 a.m. I was up at 6-7 a.m. and I was right back to it. I did that for about 2 years. I also was in probably the worst health of my life for a good portion of that, because I was not eating right, not sleeping right. And what I thought to be performing at my best, quickly realized was not even anywhere near my best abilities to produce and to work that day, right? I very quickly, realized that what I thought was 100% effort was in reality to, what I'm capable of doing, maybe half of the effort I was just putting in. And I just didn't recognize it because my body was just so overexerted and under I'm losing the word right here, but whatever. Malnourished, any kind of malnourished. I was looking for another word, but I'll use now malnourished. And that'll take me to my next point, the nutrition. You mentioned the nutrition, right? Are your breakfasts sugar, cereal, and bacon, right? Or, are you eating a very hearty breakfast, right? And so, not just what you choose to eat is my first point, is it absolutely, comes, diet is, outside of fitness, diet is such a major player in the actual physique and the state of health that your body is in, is just what you consume, nutritional value. So number one is it's not just how much you eat, it's what you're putting into the body. That's the stigma I'm getting at breaking, is you need to focus on what nutritional value you're putting into your body, which will play a huge role in your ability to balance everything. Because if you're just feeding yourself, like Natalie mentioned, junk food or just stuff with, high sugar, you're definitely going, you're not putting yourself on the course for the highest or the greatest ability to balance everything that you have going on. And then another way to look at the nutrition is just I guess also how much you are eating. I mentioned it's not just how much you eat, but it's what you eat. Well, it is also how much you eat, right? And another reason I lost so much health, or at least weight is what I meant to say. I lost so much weight and my health deteriorated when I was working like way too much. I was just completely overexerting my energy, not sleeping. Well, it was also because I was like not eating. My first meal would be at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and my first cup of water would be at 8 o'clock at night as well. I would gorge from about 8:30 p.m. because I'd get home, I'd be at work from like 6 to 8 p.m. I'd get home, I'd gorge with two meals and a bunch of water. Then eventually,
Because you're like starving by then. And
starving. And people ask me, they're like, dude, why don't you just eat during the day? It's not that hard. And it was because I was so consumed in my work and I was so focused. I would bring sometimes, packs of lunch to work and I just would not eat it. I would look down at the clock. It'd be 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'd be like, oh my God. It's because I would just be so zoned in, so just overly consumed and not balancing my nutritional value, my sleep needs, and yes, still producing quality work. When in reality, sure, I was plugging away hours upon hours, 15 hours a day, 60 hours a day. But at the end of the day, it wasn't as quality of work, even if I was doing 10 hours. If I was doing 6 less hours, but eating and sleeping right, I would have been doing more work, right? So, and then I'll stop myself here because I'm taking much longer than I thought I would. The third fundamental is love, and we already talked about that. Love for yourself, love, quality time with your loved ones, your significant other, your parents, guardians, family in general. Love is just, it's simple. It's a fundamental to life. And so don't try to act like you don't need it. It's going to play a huge role in your ability to balance everything. So, but yeah, so those are some great stigmas. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dovetail this. I'm going to take the spotlight now on this.
Yeah.
You know,
You
um,
have more about your book?
yeah. So let me take a quick sip of Gatorade real quick.
So I have a few things if that I'd like to hear from you too.
Yeah.
Since this whole process is very new because you've never written a book before. Most people have not written a book. So just talk about like that whole experience and like, because it's a process, it's a
Oh
lot.
my gosh.
And I
Yeah.
applaud you for it. So go ahead.
No. Yeah. No. Yeah. Wow. I just looked the other day when I started working on this. November 16th was the day well, I'll use a term, was the day the pen hit the paper on November 16th. And that was for the outline. I started with an outline, but I'll speed up and I'll bundle up in a nutshell what the whole process looked like to answer your question directly, Natalie. Started with an outline, got that nice big bulky meaty outline. That then tailed off into me actually writing the first draft. I then took that first draft. I passed it to a few different editors. Shout out to Kyle Williams, shout out to Tyler Walton, shout out to Cheryl Lampard, to Matthew Reyes, and to Nolan Rollins, as well as a few others that did give us some proofread, but I want to specify them because they were major players in editing and revising my first couple of drafts. So thank you to all you specifically. I'm gonna continue now throughout this episode shouting out a lot of people, and I'm gonna give thanks to a lot of everyone who's supported me through this process. So got the outline, got the first draft done, and these different editors, these different people that helped me out, I kind of gave them different responsibility, if you would, different perspective on reading it. Some for syntax, for grammar, validity, time, relevance, time relevance. So all these different perspectives on it, given it, and again, they're all different ages, from a couple of Gen Zers to millennials to some Gen Xers to some boomers. So all different perspectives, male and women, men and women. So I really wanted a very diverse perspective on it, on that first draft. And so received all that. Then what I did was I took that first draft. Then I actually finally read it myself for the first time after they all read it. So I read it for the first time. Then I did a ton of tweaking of editing, revising here and there. Gave it back now to just Nolan. So at this point I was just working with Nolan. He was we just had him on episode 9. He's our last episode. Nolan's our last episode. Again, reiterate, Nolan Rollins is my number one mentor. He's blessed me with so much, and so he's helped with a lot of the editing for this book. So I gave him that second draft, right? What I loved about this was Nolan would print it out, this big hefty pile of paper, and he grabbed his red pen, and I loved it, marking it up, red ink there, and it just made me feel so good. I brought it home. I got my ring light, got my beautiful setup that I think I love my setup I got going on over here as an author. And so went through page by page by page by page. I'm talking like, imagine this, it's 1 o'clock at night, it's pure blackout. And then there's just this kid, with this ring light, just reading through paper. It's just this absolute, almost stereotypical, like late night author, just, working on his book. So that was a lot of fun, but went through a couple of those drafts. Nolan and I actually ended up going through 3 drafts just between him and I, so I can get it just right. And that was just the text. From that point, then I had to, and this was a pretty lengthy process. I didn't want to outsource the manuscript. So a lot of self-publishers, they outsource 2 big things: the book cover and the manuscript. I did neither of those. I did them myself. I didn't outsource, is what I meant to say. I designed my book cover all myself, which did take some time, and I actually just literally finished it like the other day, getting it perfectly right. So I designed my book cover and I designed my manuscript, which that was a huge learning process. To your point, this has all been a learning process for me. And let me just say, I've had so much fun. I mean, I used Amazon KDP, and there's even like Amazon KDP University that has these different, videos that'll help you go through it. I knew they would help me. I knew they probably would have sped up some of the process. I didn't care. I wanted to trial and error. I wanted to learn on my own. I wanted to just screw around and I had a good time doing it. And I needed I did a lot of research into Amazon, to find out the different, standards and regulations and different stuff I needed to have. But so much of it was just teaching myself. So formatted the manuscript, I used Pages on my iMac. And after I formatted the manuscript, I had really, actually, not only a good friend, but a mentee of mine, Mirena. She's one of my mentees, and she was so kind to do some illustrations. So huge, huge, huge shout out to Mirena. I love you.
So you have illustrations throughout the book too?
I have illustrations throughout the book, yes. And I'm Natalie. I am so excited for everyone to see them. They are so freaking cool. I don't want to give it away, but we did a little unique approach to it where there's a character that reappears throughout the book for in different contexts, and so it's super fun and engaging. I'm not going to tell you who the character is, but I'm so excited for everyone to see the illustrations. So again, thank you so much, Mirena. I can't thank you enough. I owe you and everyone who's helped me on this big time. So illustrations then started inputting all those into the manuscript. Continue to have all, to format, get the spacing down absolutely right to the page number, to the indents, and to now wrap up my response to your question, Natalie. The final part of this process was ordering a few different, I'm going to show everyone now, a few different authors' copies, rough proofs of it. So you can see right there, it's a book. It's a book. I'm very excited to say it is not a thin, kind of get in the mail like, oh, it is the easy read. I am very proud to say that the people who have read this have agreed it is a challenging, very informational and enlightening read. It's about 303 pages total, about 275, I think. I'll tell you right now. 276 of reading. And I'm just so excited. I went with a red color. It's a matte red finish. I was deciding to get back to the response. A couple of these last author's copies was me deciding between a glossy or a matte finish. I have decided on the matte finish. It's a nice matte red. Got light bulbs on it right there. Is it backwards, Natalie? Is it backwards in the camera? Is regular? Yeah. Okay, perfect. So it's the ever evolving art of balance, self-education for a well-balanced life. And then you got my name right there. So nice spine title, and then the back right there, little photo of me, description, little bio. So let me go ahead and I'll just let me see if I can read the top of my description just through this bar. What did this say? I can't read it. We'll let everyone read it when they get the chance.
So when is it coming out? Like, when's it officially released?
So as we speak, and again, it's June 1st right now. So we're recording this on June 1st. This episode's not probably going to come out for a little bit because I want to time this episode with the release of the book. And so right now, as we're recording this, Nolan is reading the final version of the book, of the physical copy. He's giving it, read through. And once Nolan texts me, hopefully within the next 24 hours, I will be good to go. I will be hopping on my Amazon account with one click of a button. In 72 hours, it will be published live on Amazon for sale. So short answer to your question is I am thinking this Friday, June 5th. So when this comes out, this will probably be releasing this episode next week. We have a big launch coming up this week for our Lee County Fieldr portal. Everyone, stay tuned for a side note. Stay tuned for episode 11 with Kelly Thawley. We have so much to talk about our launch with the Lee County portal. So we're super excited about that. So we're kind of coordinating, my book publication also around that. So I'm thinking next week, Natalie, to answer your question, June 5th or any day after that, June 6th or June 7th. And it will be live on Amazon. It's going to be live, everyone, on Amazon for $12.99 for the paperback and $9.99 for the Kindle ebook. So I got the dual action going on, Kindle and paperback. $12.99 for the paperback, $9.99 for the Kindle. I enrolled in the Amazon KDP Select, which for all of those who like your ebooks, like the Kindles, you can actually get it free for 2 weeks. So if you can certainly read this. This is about if you can sit down and read this whole book in one sitting, I would say it's going to be at least 4 to 5 hours, probably more. And I say probably more because it's not just a book, everyone. I have sections for notes in here that at the end of each chapter, you are going to, or I request that I have different questions that I pose to you, but notes that you are then going to recap and summarize everything that you just read, but it's going to be applied to you. My purpose for this book was to deliver self-education to you that you can apply to your life instantly, right away, right? Not just learning that I learned. It's to help. It's to, the experiences that I've had, that people such as Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, Gary Vaynerchuk. I mean, the list can go on and on. Steve Jobs. I have a lot of Steve Jobs, context in here. So it's a lot of experiences, a lot of messages from some of the greatest game changers that have ever lived. Peter Drucker, Bob Buford, Jim Collins, molded into one self-education book on living a well-balanced life. Again, that you are going to be able to apply to your life immediately, right away. So sections for notes to help you do that. And each chapter comes with different self-assessment recommendations. And then chapter 15 of the book actually is a whole chapter with those self-assessments and with a further breakdown on instructions on how to do the self-assessments. So again, it's not just a book, it's a tool. I want to make this a tool that everyone who gets their hands on this book can then, really, again, apply it to the self-education to your life today to help you live the well-balanced life. So I'm really excited for everyone to read it. And I know we're nearing the end of our episode for this podcast. So I just wanted to say, I wanted to give a quick thanks to a handful of people, because, we're treating this episode, if you couldn't tell, obviously, with the name of the title and with where we've gone talking about this. This episode is a huge, is just hugely revolved around this book's release. So I really want to take the time to make sure I express my gratitude for everyone involved. So first and foremost, I want to thank, obviously, my mom and dad. I always got to thank you too. My mom and dad, you two have, like you always like to tell me, given me the tools that I needed to build the life that I've always wanted to build and design. And so I will always forever be thankful, and everything I do is always for you, Mom and Dad. To my grandma, Anita Penn, who unfortunately, while I was writing this book, was not able to make it through a couple of struggles she was going through, but that's all right. We're very, very grateful to know that she's resting well with my grandfather again. But I just want to give thanks to my grandmother for just an absolutely incredible lifetime shared together of just memories, and you fought to the very end. And so this book is definitely dedicated to your grandma. And then to two more people who this book is dedicated to, and then I have a few honorary acknowledgments I need to express. To Sam Lewis, you, my brother, exposed me to a world of business at such a young age that I never would have thought I would have been a part of. And because of that exposure, you've helped me in being able to turn myself into the professional that I am today. And so I will always, forever be grateful. And this book is dedicated to you. And as well as one of my favorite professors and just favorite humans altogether, Annie Stout. Annie, you believed in me when I was going through school, when I didn't even believe in myself, and when I had no idea what I was going to do with my life after I had just moved across the country and had no family down here, didn't know what I was going to do, and you shed light on my abilities and introduced me to Sam. You brought me through the startup of the entrepreneur program, made me the first entrepreneur at our school. And you were just a massive role to my early success. And now to give thanks to a handful of people who have really been a huge reason as to why I'm here today. To my entire family of Firmenders and Pens, to Aunt Grace, who was not blood but cared for me as such. To my other family, the DDFs, and that's an inside joke. You all know the name of the DDFs, and my hometown of Danbury, Connecticut. To a very special part of my life, Alyssa Enright. To my coaches throughout Pop Warner in high school, the Danbury Trojans and Danbury Hatters. To my brothers, Tyler Walt and Kyle Williams, as well as my Southwest Florida family. To Florida Gulf Coast University, Leadership, and FGCU's School of Entrepreneurship. To my very first business partner, Brendan Kelly and Vix Entertainment. To Jacob Adamowitz and the Room Dig team. To Natalie Finazzo and the Fieldr team. To my proofreaders and editors, Nolan Rollins, Cheryl Lampard, Robert Swenson, and Matthew Reyes. To my incredible illustrator, Miranda Snoha. And to the anecdotal contributors in this book, Stephen Becker, Jeff Evans, Ross Gibbs, Ashley DeBoer, Brandon Catrone, Eric Galis, Benjamin Fleischer, Carl Gibbons, Dr. Christopher Blakely, Dr. Sandra Kawanui, Dr. Kathleen Houlihan, and Nolan Rollins. My gratitude spreads far beyond any list that I could put together. So to all of you reading, and to all of you who support, and to everyone who continuously supports Fieldr, myself, Natalie, I just want to say thank you. And I want to say, may you all live the lives that you dream of. And I'm so grateful for the support that we've all received. So So to that, I say thank you. And I say,
That's quite a list of people you have supporting you. That's
yes.
amazing. And I'm really excited for you and your book coming out. So everyone, make sure you follow up and stay tuned for that.
Yeah, we make sure we get all the links blasted everywhere. You're going to see plenty of this all over the social medias on both Fieldr and myself. Make sure you follow me at Connor Firmender. I have a website coming out here soon in about a month, connorfirmender.com. But yeah, we'll make sure you get your hands on this book. So everyone, thank you again. And Natalie, you want to close this out?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you guys for tuning in, and make sure you follow us on all our socials. Join Fieldr. Make sure you leave us a review. We'd really appreciate it. And stay tuned for the next episode. All right. Bye, guys.